Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hey, number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and today we are continuing our crusade of review of language reviews. And what we've got here today is language review German, and I'm really looking forward to this one. Now, of course, with the other language reviews that I've been able to check out with you and kind of provide commentary, at least I had a thing or two to say when it came to like the grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, in general, the languages covered since, Italian, Mandarin, Japanese, French. I know a thing or two, particularly Italian. My Italian is fantastic. German, I don't really know much, so it'll probably be more of a commentary in reaction to his jokes, I suppose, but without further ado. Okay, go.
Newsflash, beta males! Every language sounds harsh when you scream in it. Sali und herzlich willkommen auf meinem Kanal. Alles cool in Istanbul? Hutsch Schweizmeer. Ibe de Ducci Spruch, otherwise formerly known as Wiener Schnitzel language, West Polish, Tomboy Dutch, BMW language, Porter in the shopping cart language, or Austrian. This is the sixth episode of Language Review, a series where I go through the languages of the world and review them, sort of like a film critic or a video game reviewer, but for languages, specifically from the perspective of a language learner. I'll discuss who speaks them, their grammar, their difficulty, and tons of other stuff before finally giving them an official language Simp certified rating.
Okay, where would we put German? I mean, we already discussed that I would totally put Italian in GigaChad, Mandarin in GigaChad, Japanese in GigaChad, Portuguese in GigaChad. Well, to be honest, maybe I'm not really the best person to ask when it comes to this, so I mean, you let me know where you'd put German
On the Simp scale. If you enjoy this video, let me know in the comments which language you'd like me to review next, and without further ado, alla hope. Oh, I know German. It's that silly sounding language that cowboys speak in Texas. Yeah, around 6,000 people do speak it with a beautiful American accent in Texas.
Are you joking? I had no idea. 6,000 per what? What?
But more people speak taco language there. German is the 12th most spoken language in the world, and it's the most common native language of our biggest rival, the EU, where over 134 million NPCs speak it, mainly in Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and of course, Mallorca. But
Mallorca. I think there are quite a few people that speaking in northern Italy, but of course not as a first language. It's just that there is one. Yeah, it kind of depends on the place.
Belgium, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, and of course, Mallorca. But no one learns German for any of these countries, including Germany. Most people study German as a stepping stone.
Including Germany. Holy moly. In my experience, well, I'll tell you a little bit about my experience in Switzerland in a moment, though, because I mean, Switzerland is fascinating when it comes to that.
To learn Yiddish, which is basically the same language as German, but it's written backwards with funky letters and bonus vocab from Hebrew. The sad truth is that learning German itself just doesn't really unlock that much DLC for the average language learner. If you're lucky enough to be able to read, you will unlock content there, but the thing is, most Germans already speak great American, especially in the big cities you'll likely visit. I mean, sure, if you go look for some farm outside of a random town like Tits or Mount Wonk, you're bound to run into some old geezer who doesn't know the difference between through, throughout, thorough, and tough. But even he probably speaks the language better than most British people. So if you're
oh my gosh, that was an attack to the Brits. I'm sure you'll respond to that. So I want to say, what is the average language proficiency when it comes to English in Germany? I think it is pretty good. I mean, of course, they usually have a very strong accent. So do we in Italy. So do people in France. So I'm not saying like it's not. And the reason why I'm pointing that out, though, is because I believe Scandinavians and Nordic people tend to speak English better than all other Europeans. But it is based on my experience. I think, yeah, Germans, generally speaking, tend to speak English better than Italians in numbers, in a raw numbers game, and even French. But then again, compared to Scandinavians, I think there are more Scandinavians that are more fluent and accentless than there are Germans who speak English. That's my opinion.
Primary goal is to shock natives in Germany, you should learn Turkish. But German is still worth learning. Whether you want to dress up and go to Oktoberfest with the girlies, listen to some mountain yodeling, drive 500 miles an hour on the Autobahn, or kick back and relax while watching 10 hours of Was ist dein Lieblingsfach, Lieblingsfach, Lieblingsfach?
Oh gosh, I don't know what that is, but I know that the Autobahn used to have no limits when it comes to how fast you can go with a car, which is why quite a few people would take their sports cars there and do whatever they did. But I believe they changed that. I think there is a limit now. It's still extremely high. And if you are from Germany, do correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe they regulated it at one point.
German has a lot to offer. And the best part is that the language is very unified. Everyone speaks with the same accent and dialect in every part of the German-speaking world. Said no one ever.
Exactly.
Trying to learn about all the different accents and dialects in German was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Harder than every engineering class I took, and even harder than when I gave birth. They've got so many different ways to classify all of the dialects that I almost died trying to make sense of all of these maps.
Very much like Italian.
But in general, Swiss German sounds like someone is hiccuping while riding a donkey, and they say merci instead of danke for some reason. Austrian German sounds like how someone from Alabama would speak German. They also have the most manly, giga-chad, hillbilly-sounding dialect in the region where the former governor of California is from. Then
I love Schwarzenegger. Arnold is the best.
Germany, oh god, there's so many, and it's hard to wrap your head around without immersing yourself in German culture. Before I go down that rabbit hole, if you want to learn German or any other languages, the best way to do so is through full immersion, which can be made...
That's, of course, the sponsor section. Well, let's see who the sponsor is. NordVPN, very nice. One thing I wanted to say now is that, first of all, Germans have got fantastic cars, and I say that as a proud Italian, but I do love their Audi. I used to have an Audi TT back in the day, like I'm talking about a 1999 Audi TT, what have you. I even have a video where I drive it. I sold it now because I moved to the US. With that small engine, I think it would have been illegal here. But in general, in my experience in Switzerland, yes, the accent is definitely different from the accent in Germany. Of course, as he said, accents vary. I do remember, though, that when I was interacting with German-speaking Swiss, I remember I had this friend and she was teaching me some German, and then her mum told her, no, teach him High German. So that was an interesting experience. I don't know if it's still that way, but asking the daughter not to teach me the local variety. I love Switzerland because literally it's 3 countries in one.
Or Hochdeutsch is the standard German spoken on television that's forced into students' minds all around the world. Within High German, there's a dialect called Bavarian, which they might as well just call Austrian. Also, there's Alemannic, which is adorable and spoken by kind hillbillies who make their words sound
That was not a hillbilly, that's a hemo.
adorable.
Emo.
One sub-dialect of Alemannic is called Badisch, and it is by far the greatest and most beautiful dialect of any language in the world. Middle German is quite forgettable, except for Saxon, which sounds like how cartoon characters speak, and it's spoken in this region that's basically the Florida of Germany. Low German is spoken by fishermen, and it's basically a completely different language. But unfortunately, all of these dialects are slowly dying due to TikTok standardizing the accents of the German youth.
Damn TikTok. It's always TikTok's fault, isn't it?
Standardizing the accents of the German youth. Now let's talk about the alphabet. The German language uses a stolen version of the American alphabet.
As always.
Which in this case is fine. We stole the hamburger from them, so now we're even. But
Yeah, from the city of Hamburg.
a few hundred years ago, the Germans added a new letter as DLC into the language, and I must admit, it's awesome. It's called the Eszett, and it makes a sharp S sound, but it looks like an uppercase B that's open for business. After a minute, I see the letter 3 with emo hair, and
Hey, what are you talking about? Long hair is not emo hair. You wanna see emo hair? Long hair? Emo hair.
after a minute, I see the letter 3 with emo hair, and after a half hour, I see the top half of a beautiful pregnant woman. And the Swiss don't use this letter, and I can't think why that would be, so they must just hate pregnant women. But admittedly, it looks really out of place in words. Like, it just doesn't look like it belongs there, and it sticks out
Is that pronounced Straße?
like an American tourist in Europe. And the Germans commit the egregious sin of tainting our wonderful vowels by adding nostrils on top of a few of them. They're called umlauts, and they can be used to change the sound of the vowel or distinguish between two otherwise identical words. Like, this means humid, while this means gay. And this also means
Really?
gay, like the letter is pronounced gay. For some reason, they pronounce the W's with a V sound, like in the word Welt, and they pronounce the V's with an F sound, like in the word Vermögenszuordnungszustandigkeitsübertragungsverordnung. God, that word is so beefy like my massive biceps.
Oh, come on. Is that one word? No. I mean, I do know the Germans are famous for that sort of conglomerate of words.
German words can get really big and long,
Yeah.
the way they use black magic to combine tons of nouns into one word. But these compound words are very logical, and they can be best demonstrated with the names of animals. This is a little sea pig. This is an stink animal. This is a lazy animal. This is a goldfish. Shit, we do that too. This is a spike pig. This is a Nile horse. And
Spike pig, same in Italian. Porco spino. We do call it pig, yeah.
this is a flying object. Both American and German are Germanic languages, but American was tainted by French influences. German stayed true to its roots and still use crazy medieval-sounding Dungeons and Dragons words.
Can you imagine if German didn't sound Germanic?
German is scary. Why does it sound so angry? They're always screaming. I'm afraid. I'm sure y'all have seen those videos where they show how soft and cute a word sounds in different languages, and then they literally scream the word in German and act surprised when it sounds hostile and scary. Newsflash, beta males! Every language sounds harsh when you scream in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, haters of German are either brainwashed by that propaganda, or they've only ever heard German at its absolute worst in World War II films. I personally love how German sounds, and I've always been super intrigued by its pronunciation.
Me too. I like the sound of German. 100% agree.
It has a soothing and charming, yet dominant and
Well.
masculine melody to it. The R sound is complicated, but at least you don't need to roll it in this case. There's
Right. Warum? Warum?
just one noise that's notoriously hard for foreigners to make, and it's the CH sound, like in the word ich, meaning I. It's
Let me try it. Ich.
not and it's not sh. It's somewhere in the middle. To say it, pretend you're a snake and slither on the floor until you feel German. Then make the noise. Ich.
Uh-oh. It
But
didn't
honestly,
work.
just say ich. All the cool people in the north half of Germany say ich instead of ich, and it's easy.
Really? Oh my gosh, that's so interesting from a linguistic perspective. Little dialectology in here, but yeah, if you're from that area, let me know how common it is. If it's just something that is kind of dying out, or do they used to do it?
Easier and more hipster. If you struggle to pronounce something in German, just make up your own pronunciation. Chances are there's some random village dialect where people say it like you anyway. German speakers do this weird thing where they capitalize all of the nouns in their sentences. It's pretty quirky, but it doesn't really do much. Some
That's interesting because, in fact, capitalization does vary depending on the language, and that's something that you do need to learn at one point if you want to reach a good level of written proficiency. For instance, in English, you do capitalize days of the week, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. We don't do that in Italian. So if you're writing Italian, you shouldn't do it. It's considered to be a mistake. At the same time, you do capitalize the word Italian, Japanese, when you are talking about nationality, maybe even in adjectival form, I think in English would be correct too. Yes, it's always capital, isn't it? And we don't do that in Italian. And another thing is that you capitalize I no matter the position within a sentence. In Italian, io is only capitalized if it's at the beginning of a sentence or after punctuation, like a full stop or a period. Yeah, so there are differences, absolutely.
capitalize all of the nouns in their sentences. It's pretty quirky, but it doesn't really do much. Some people say it helps the brain read faster, but I think it's funny to imagine that Germans wouldn't be able to understand their own language if the nouns weren't capitalized. Germans
With that face, Polizei.
just love arbitrary rules, so their grammar can also get a little complex. The language has 3 genders for nouns: masculine, feminine, and neuter, which each correspond to one of the 3 definite articles der, die, and das. But
Der, dir, das.
there's a glitch that caused girls to be neuter for some reason. And German still has an annoying and archaic case system. They have 4 cases, which
Yep.
means that each noun can take up to 8 different forms in a sentence. Take a look at the word Welt, for example. Oh wait, they're all the same.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, a bit like Latin, isn't it? Welt, Welten, 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 Weltin. I have no idea.
Okay, this is easier than Russian, but the cases are really bad with the personal and possessive pronouns. Why can ihr be the second person plural nominative pronoun, the third person feminine dative pronoun, the third person feminine possessive pronoun, the third person plural possessive pronoun, and the second person courtesy possessive pronoun? How do you keep track of that? Something I love though is how they often put verbs at the end of the sentences because it builds so much suspense.
Yeah, that happens in Japanese. It does happen in Latin quite a bit. And it doesn't happen in Italian, but it does happen in Sicilian, although we only do it in the emphatic clause.
Have to wait for the verb, and I'll give you an example of what it would be like in American so that you can understand.
Please.
I want innocently in a McDonald's parking lot at 3 a.m. with your mom under the glowing moonlight while it's raining and the frogs are croaking and the grill's a sizzling to dance. Now it's
That was splendid. But yes, that's what happens. I'm gonna skip the shock factor to give you a reason to go click the original video and watch it, but I do want to see the final positioning.
certified rating on the Simp scale. On a scale of dog water to Giga Chad, I place German solidly in the alpha tier. I genuinely love the way it sounds
good.
and it's relatively easy for a Native American speaker. But the little to no shock factor kinda brings it down a little for me. I just like shocking natives and filming them without their permission way too much. At least trying to speak German in Germany isn't as useless as trying to speak Dutch in the Netherlands. Let me know which language I should review next in the comments. Do svidania. Newsflash!
As always, he never fails to deliver. Sehr gut. Ja, das ist sehr gut. Thank you. See you tomorrow.